All right. Well, welcome back to the Equipped, Bruised, Tired podcast. I'm Bryce Krawchuk, and I'm here with my podcast partner, Ryan Stinn. Ryan, how are you, man?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Quite good. You said it's very hot there, as denoted by the sleeveless Sunday.
I think I probably have different levels of really hot. It's gonna be 27 today, so
I feel like.
um,
Sorry, go ahead.
that's to me that's hot enough, more than hot enough. I'm like a low 20s kind of guy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so uh, yeah, definitely 27 is hot enough for me. But
There's like an inverse relationship, I think, between body weight and heat tolerance.
yeah,
That is, it's very apparent. I've
yeah,
noticed this year my summer bod, my tolerance for the heat is diminished by a great deal. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I hear you.
You're more insulated for the winter. That's all.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Still wearing shorts when it's -10.
Yeah,
Um, so you said you moved back into the gym,
yeah. We're
getting all that
moving.
stuff going again?
We moved our stuff from home yesterday, and we had one of our members bring their stuff back yesterday, and yeah, we'll do our first training session there today. So
Sweet.
uh, interesting. It's first time in our new space and first time training together with people in 4 months. I don't even know. Feels
Yeah,
like forever.
not that long probably.
Yeah.
So does Saskatchewan have specific regulations for gyms and stuff? Like, are you mandated masks or, any of that
Uh,
kind of stuff?
yeah, they have regulations. Masks aren't mandatory.
Mm.
Stuff like uh, questionnaire, do you have symptoms? Which
Right.
well, at this point, I think if people have symptoms and they're choosing to come to the gym, a questionnaire is not going to make them turn around.
Yeah.
So, and then stuff like has to be staffed to ensure social distancing. Um, yeah, there's definitely a few little regulations, lots of cleaning and all that sort of stuff. Initially, they had like mandated that change rooms weren't allowed. I think that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't have change rooms, but they've
Just
since
like too tight of quarters kind of thing, or.
yeah, I guess so. They did remove that now, so
Mm.
which is probably good. Like we only have one washroom in the facility, and then uh, two other small rooms that can be used for change spaces. But not that
Right.
there's that many people in our gym, that doesn't really make a big difference. So
Yeah. How's your training been these past week or so?
good. Yeah, I just finished the last week of this block.
Uh-huh.
Pretty happy. I hit like a really solid 210 bench last Sunday,
Yeah, I saw that.
and felt like I had like a lot in the tank, but
Hmm.
decided to, not try and max out at the end of every 6 week block. So
Every block.
yeah, so I tried to be good, and I might chat with Michael, maybe doing one more raw bench block and see if I can chase down 227.5 kilos.
Hmm.
I think I can have it in me if I do another good 6 week block. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and then so I'm starting to pivot today, and I'll be doing my first bilateral
Yeah, I was gonna
lower
ask about
body
that.
movement today. So we'll
Yeah.
see. He has this interesting. It was in my last block for deadlifts. It's like work up to a set of 5, pain
Hmm.
free. I'm like, well, that's only in hindsight sort of thing that I can do there.
Okay. Okay. So
I
because your
only,
pain is like reactive, it kind of comes
yeah.
on afterwards.
Well, I mean, I don't know the set's pain free until I've done the set. So it's hard for me to judge what weight I need to
Right.
use
Right.
to be pain free. So today I'll probably be like super tentatively light and
Hmm.
just feeling things out, see what both legs can do together again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of an interesting thing, I think, to try to work out what pain free looks like. You almost start to develop a new scale of RPE, like RPP, reps pre pain kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But it usually just leads to like a fair bit of just being very conservative, I would think.
Yeah. And that's the same thing. Like I said, we did this for my deadlifts last block,
Hmm.
one set of 5 conventional pain free. And I ended up working up to like 250 on my last week.
Nice.
So I was happy enough with that, considering I think the first week I was at like 180 ish.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, well, that was pain free, but maybe I felt something, because you become so hyper aware
Totally.
of that
Yeah.
region, right? Like you're like, well, did I feel something? I don't know.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
I mean, 250 is not exactly an amazing set of 5, but I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
How about you? How's your,
Uh,
this is week 3 of this block?
week 4, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going pretty well. I think this is the first week where I actually felt like, week one I was just dogged from the volume. Week two I was like, okay, I think I can probably do this. Week three was like thinking, okay, I'm doing pretty well on this volume. And now week four, I'm actually starting to feel strong on my top sets, my indicator sets. So it's been like a pretty linear process of adapting to the volume, and I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot. Pushed some decent weights. I didn't really push my deadlift this week. Just again with only pulling once a week, and I don't know. For me, my hip pain tends to show up earlier in the session, and after I hammer, 8 sets of 4 or whatever, uh, I don't like. I'm in zero pain by the end of it.
Right.
So often I'll have my heavy sets and I'll be kind of tentative and moving a bit weird, and then by the end I'm just smashing the volume and it feels fine, and there's not even a thought of it. So that leads to my top sets, I think, being a little bit lower than usual, but my bench is kind of back to where it was, feeling very good. And the last block hit some like 200 plus board presses and some real easy work in that like 180 to 190 range raw. And yeah, so it's going well. And I think we have a couple questions if we want to dive into those.
Yeah.
You said you had an email one, and I got a DM, I think, here.
Okay. I'll start with my emails. So the email's from Matt. He has a few questions here, so we'll try and rapid fire through them a little bit.
Okay.
So he says, as a brand new equipped lifter, I would love to hear your accounts of times you've gotten people into gear for the first time or the first few times. Did they stick with it? How did they change from the first time to the third, fourth, or fifth time? I don't know if you have experience with some new people in your gym kind of getting into it.
A fair bit, actually. We're pretty lucky in that there's a really good community at the Strength Edge, and that's led to people seeing equipped lifting and then wanting to do it. And I'd say most of the experiences, other than maybe one, have been all very positive. People come in and try, like Jason Dick, Jason from somewhere out in northern Alberta. Like, he's kind of out of the way a little bit.
Yeah.
But he came down because I was coaching him at the time, and he was traveling through and tried my squat suit. And then in 2019, I competed with him at Worlds. So he obviously got hooked on it. There's another couple guys from our gym that are starting to get better and more into it. And I had one guy who tried a bench shirt, got really mad that it wasn't more like a slingshot, and said he'd never do it again. But that was probably the only negative experience. For the most part, people seem to be pretty stoked on it. And in terms of how they change, it's not really like a session to session thing. It's more like a year to year thing. I think, as with anything, it takes a while to actually see that progress. But yeah, I'd say for the most part, it's been positive experiences, and it does take a while to get past some of those initial habits, sort of understand maybe how you prefer the gear to fit, or how you need to change or, force your movements to even be the same while the gear tries to push you out of your groove, and things like that. But that all kind of takes time. What about you?
Yeah, like I would say, of the people that train with us currently, and even in the past, most people have tried at least some gear on.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's probably tried a bench shirt on at least.
The gateway drug.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough though, because it's kind of reliant upon having someone who's
Mm-hmm.
also near your size, right?
Right.
We have quite a bit of old gear kicking around, so it helps to have a few things around. But yeah, lots of the people that come with us, I don't want to say I don't ever really push people into gear, because I find like it's better for them to decide to try it.
Yeah.
I might encourage it,
Yeah.
but I certainly don't try to force it on anyone. But generally, we have a couple of young lifters with us right now. Kaylee, who started lifting with us a couple years ago, and I basically said, like, hey, we're hosting Junior Equipped Worlds. Why don't you, if you want, you have a chance to lift at Worlds in Regina. So try it out. And she jumped right on it and has been kind of hooked on it since. And then Noah, who started training with us maybe a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember how he got into gear initially. He was just a raw lifter, as most people start.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, one day, I think he said something or we said something, and he was like, yep, I want to do that. And like, it was like he didn't want to like ask about it. I don't know. It was funny. He was like full blown right into it right away. And
Yeah.
luckily, Steve Price had some old gear around that fit him sort of well. So
Okay. Yeah.
um, I can definitely say like the change, like, yeah, it's the first time it's a lot of getting over, holy crap, this feels so funny.
And weird
Um,
and foreign. And
yeah,
yeah.
usually by the second or third, fourth session, they're starting to find their equipped legs and kind of understanding
Hmm.
how the stuff works.
Hmm.
Not to say that they won't have bad sessions or whatever, but they're starting
Yeah.
to kind of get comfortable in it. So yeah, I think most people, I want to say most people have tried it, stuck with it, but 50-50. Lots of people they just want to try a bench shirt because, oh, I can slingshot bench a lot. So let's see what a bench shirt, I can do like way more in a bench shirt, right? So
Yeah.
that's, some people are like that, but most people that are really intrigued in it, like they go right for it.
Right.
His second question is, what's the most a piece of equipment can be taken in? Let's say hypothetically someone had a Titan Centurion that was a 44 and they cut down to a place they should be in a 40. Would that be within the realm of alterations, or would a new suit be needed?
I have very little experience with that. Maybe you can speak to that a little better.
Um, I would say definitely taking it in one size shouldn't be an issue.
Hmm.
Um, the thing about it is that 44, once you stretch it out a bit, is really like a 46, a new 46.
Yeah.
So it depends where you need to take it in and how tight the initial 44 was.
Hmm.
If at your current weight that 44 is snug, um, and maybe like it's snug after it's stretched out a little bit, you should be fine. If you want to take the hips in, like I would say a good inch and a half taken in on my hips of
Okay.
my squat suit.
Yeah.
Straps are obviously no problem. They can be taken in as much as you want.
Hmm.
But if you start finding like the body is loose, like you can take that, instead of just taking hips in, you can go all the way up the side to take it
Right.
in.
Right.
The one thing we found is that taking in the cuff of the leg is
Hmm.
pretty hit and miss. It's thick
Right.
material to get through, and it takes a lot of pressure. So
Yeah.
it has a pretty common occurrence of snapping open.
Okay.
Um, so if you have taken the leg cuff, you might be in trouble because it's
Right.
just, you have to really, really go over it. Um, and probably you need to go to something like a higher tensile strength thread that some people use to try and hold that leg cuff together.
Right.
So, but otherwise, like if everything else is fitting good, and I don't even find like my leg cuffs are not tight in my suit anyway. I
Hmm.
can basically put my whole hand up my leg. Um,
Oh wow.
I often will actually pull the leg of the suit up, chalk my quad, and then pull the leg back down over top of it
So
to
that
help
it
it stay in
rests and
place.
like stays in place. Yeah.
Yeah. So my legs
Interesting.
aren't tight at all. Uh, I like a really tight body,
Hmm.
like torso area,
Yeah.
but yeah, the legs aren't too tight. So I think you'd probably be fine taking it in, assuming the 44 is not already loose on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing to take into consideration is just how much extra fabric's going to be in there with you once you've taken it in that far, right? It's probably going to be a little bit more uncomfortable. It's going to be a little bit more sharp in terms of how it digs in. So, I mean, that's something to consider.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, when I've done modifications on the squat suit, I use kind of like a crescent shape from the armpit to the leg, where the sort of deepest part of the crescent is on the hips. So it kind of still follows that same taper and can be tightest at the hips. I guess just for me, I have really big quads, but that's kind of been something that I've kind of taken it in. And I wonder at what point you're going to get some like weird folding if you take in that big of a crescent, if you're going to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's going to be extra material in there. You could always cut it off, I suppose.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. You have
but
to be pretty confident that
oh, you got to
your
be
seams are
confident.
going to
All
hold.
right. Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think you'd probably be fine taking it in. But again, as a new lifter, you're probably not looking for the tightest gear in the world, so you'd probably be okay.
And unless you
Um,
cut that stuff off, like worst thing that happens is you're like, this isn't going to work. And you take the seams out and then you have a 44 again and you
yeah, and
can
then you sell it.
sell it, trade it, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Last question, and this, I don't know how much I'll say on this, but finally, I'd love to hear your opinions on the new unlimited multiply bench shirts, like the one that was used to set the all-time world record bench at 1,105 pounds. Do you think equipment no longer needing to be bruising or tiring across the line in the sport? Do you think comfortable equipment is the way to bring the sport back to the masses?
Huh. I actually put a fair bit of thought into this and had a bit of a discussion with Natalie about it. Um, and I think my initial reaction was like, "Oh hell no!" Like that isn't powerlifting, which is just all the same crap and guff that we get from the raw crowd a lot of the time. So I kind of checked myself a little bit, and um, I mean, honestly, as long as people kind of understand that that's not the same as single ply lifting, that's fine. Um, and yeah, maybe finding a way to have equipment be a little bit more comfortable is a way of making it more appealing to people. But I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we'll have to see where it goes and how it evolves because, right now it's also part of as far as I know, anyways, I'm going to guess untested, like multiply, just like forklift mode kind of stuff, which again, I mean, is not for me. So, like if that's your thing, have at her. But I don't know if you'll find me in one of those, or maybe you will, just because it's comfy and it might be easy to try, right? I don't know. Again, I'm back and forth a lot on it. I don't know if I have super like divisive or like one side of the argument opinions at this point.
Right.
What do you think, Ryan? Give us the tea.
So I saw the bench.
I haven't seen the bench as well. That's worth.
No, I have seen it. So
I haven't.
and it was easy peasy. I don't know anything about the shirt though, so I'll say that. I kind of understand the point of the shirt and how it's different. I think what I will say is the gear that we wear now, as uncomfortable as it might be, is nowhere near as uncomfortable as gear was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Like the hardback shirts that took like 3 people to put you in, that just like compressed every part of you to try and do something, and then didn't really do a whole lot in the end anyway.
Like 5 pounds. Yeah.
Or like squeezing into, even back when I started the Inzer Hardcore or Inzer Max DL, which is like a sort of modern suit, but like in a stretchier material, like a similar cut to modern suit. But because the material is so much stretchier, you had to wear it so much tighter to get any kind of carry over. So people literally like peeled these things on. And I know like people wear their current gear tight, but I don't think anywhere near as tight as that old stuff because of how stretchy the stuff was. So I would say like in time, gear has gotten more comfortable anyway. Is this the next generation, next progression? Maybe. I mean, at this point in my lifting career, I don't necessarily find equipment that uncomfortable anyway.
Yeah.
I would question if it's non-bruising anyway, or tiring. You're benching 1,100 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way you're walking away from that without some sort of bruising or tiring.
There's no way you're like not going home right to bed and
Yeah,
sleeping
exactly.
for 48 hours kind of thing,
So, yeah, I think, I don't know. I think things will be learned from that equipment.
Yeah.
And possibly it'll trickle down into single ply.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, more comfortable, great, I guess. I mean, I won't say no, but yeah, I think a lot of it has to do, like, I think that kind of shirt wouldn't necessarily need to be open backed, which would automatically make it unavailable to single ply. But
I also think for a lot of the crowd that's doing equipped lifting right now, like it being uncomfortable isn't really a complaint for most. Like you kind of get used to it. It's not like we still, every day, every meet, whatever, are like, oh God, this is so terrible. It sucks for the first like couple sessions back, and then you develop a little bit of a callus around your leg or your knee or whatever, and you just kind of get used to it and get back into it, and it feels like it feels.
Yeah, I just I'm more surprised half the time when I actually have marks from the suits.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like I on the legs, I'll get them from the squat suit and whatever, but on my arms, I almost never get shirt marks anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they're kind of basically like they're callous at this point. I don't know.
Yeah.
I still have my suit marks on my legs though. Like I still have discoloration where the
Just
suit
like
leg cuff
permanent ring
goes.
around
Yeah,
your leg.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
When that fades away, then it's definitely time to get back in the suit.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that way right now, actually. Okay, so we had another question from Billy, and he said, "What, in your opinion, is the best approach for a young equipped lifter in terms of longevity in gear? Do you think that taking time off once in a while would be beneficial for a lifter's body, even if he isn't necessarily injured, or do you think it's the best time to stay in gear for long periods of time?"
Um, I personally think that equipment has allowed me to lift as long as I've lifted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't think necessarily you need to get out of the gear just to get out of the gear. I think getting out of the gear sometimes to bring up raw strength is a good idea, but I don't necessarily think it's a requirement for longevity.
Right.
I would almost say that without fail, I've hurt myself raw before I hurt myself equipped.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, the time you're working in raw mode, raw strength, you're probably exposing yourself a little more. Now that's probably because you're doing 95% of your work raw anyway, so the odds of it happening then is just more likely.
Sure.
But the gear really was initially made to protect you. So in some ways, it still does that, right? It takes a lot of that loading off the shoulders for the bench and the hips and stuff. So I don't think you necessarily have to get out of the gear to stay healthy, but it's not a bad thing to get out of the gear now and then to work on raw strength and maybe work on some of those weaknesses that could potentially lead to injuries.
Sure. So I think my take on that is more that you should get out of gear when you feel like you want to get out of gear for a bit. You know what I mean? Like I think for me, it's a bit refreshing right now being back into some raw training. I don't see any scenario in which developing my raw strength further is going to hinder me in my equipment. And for me, the mental break of just being able to, this might sound bad, but like kind of autopilot my training a little bit instead of having to go in and having to be on because, I got 800 plus pounds on my back, and it's a different kind of like mental toll that it takes. Where I think raw training can be a bit relaxing and a bit, less stressful and a bit less high pressure and less ammonia. I can listen to podcasts while I train right now. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to slight raw lifting because obviously if I was training for a meet or last block where it was very intense raw work, it's still very demanding. I do find that raw is inherently a little bit less mentally demanding for me. So I think for people who end up in that kind of situation where they're feeling maybe a little bit burnt out, then just do some raw work for a while. So I think that ability to flip back and forth, and actually we talked about that with Carola today, and she mentioned and kind of pointed towards her being able to focus on both as a reason for her drastic success in a short period of time. But that would kind of be my take on things.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's definitely more mentally taxing, and eventually at some point you're just like, oh man, I don't have it in me right now to be doing this again. So
yeah,
I do remember after Worlds in Dubai, coming back home, and like immediately my first block of stuff with Mike was back in the gear. I'm like, oh man, I'm just not really ready for that. But
yeah.
That's what's in the program, so here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
And it did.
Whitesnake started playing.
I will say that it probably led to one of the most draining, one of the most tough training cycles I had. It was just. I think it started mentally tired and just kept that going all the way through. Not that it wasn't good, and I had great success on it, but it just I didn't get that kind of mental break time.
Right. And that would have been from Worlds into Nationals. Hey, you just kind of stayed in the equipment.
Yeah. I think it was. I did like the usual pivot and then right back into the gear.
Yeah. Hey. Cool. Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we toss this over to the episode?
No, I think that's good. I can head her into the interview.
Cool. So today our guest was Carola Garra, or will be Carola Garra. It's there's a temporal
Shifting.
issue here. Yeah. Anyways, so Carola's been competing since 2015, and she's a pretty young lifter. She hasn't been in the sport for a long time, but she's had multiple podium finishes equipped, as well as at least one Classic World Championship, a number of wins from different European championships as a junior. She currently holds the junior world record total, competes in the 63 kilo class, as well as recently breaking a longstanding Open Classic total record in the 63s. She took Jen Thompson's record for a little bit there. She was slated to compete at Sheffield. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but instead, she put up just a gargantuan training total that would have been a good bit above the current world record once more. So I thought it was a pretty interesting conversation. Anybody out there who speaks Italian is probably going to glean a little bit more from this interview because Carol responded in Italian and had her partner translate for us. So there may have been a little bit lost in translation, but we were really happy to be able to have spoken with her and asked her a bunch of questions about her experiences. So we had a lot of fun with the episode, and we hope everybody out there takes something away, learns something. And again, if you have any questions, go ahead and hit us up at equippedbruisedtired@gmail.com, or you can send one of us a DM or whatever. And you can go ahead and do that 5-star rating thing, leave reviews, all that good stuff. And I'm going to stop talking. We'll toss over the episode. So we hope you enjoy.
Just 1 second before we jump to the episode, we should talk about future plans. Right. We are going to jump from a weekly schedule to a bi-weekly schedule. Mm-hmm. Life is just kind of picking back up and getting a little more busy, and we don't want to feel like we're half-assing these episodes. Right. And so for that, we're going to go to an every other Monday sort of schedule, just trying to keep putting out quality content instead of quantity content, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So with that said, over to the interview, and hope you guys all enjoy.
All right. Well, first off, thank you, Carola. And what was your name? Francesco. Thank you, Carola and Francesco, for coming on and chatting with us today. Welcome to our little podcast.
Thank you for inviting.
For sure. So Carola, we did a little bit of research and we found out you've been powerlifting since about 2015, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you've had a lot of success, and I mean that's still 3 years after I started powerlifting, and I consider myself pretty young in the sport. I imagine that you have an athletic background of some kind. Have you played sports most of your life, or did you just kind of wander into powerlifting?
Capito, ti ha chiesto se hai un background atletico, qualche sport hai fatto?
Sì, allora io a 6 anni ho iniziato a fare sport e ho praticato per 10 anni ginnastica artistica e poi nel 2010 ho smesso e ho iniziato a fare esclusivamente panca per 5 anni, finché poi nel 2015 ho iniziato il powerlifting completo.
She started at 6 years old with gymnastics.
Okay.
And did it for 10 years. Then stopped and started with bench press only.
Okay.
Which she did for
5 years.
5 years, and then powerlifting. So
crazy.
Really.
Yeah. Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about how you went from gymnastics to powerlifting? Like, how did that transition happen?
E in pratica quando ho smesso ginnastica non sapevo bene cosa fare, volevo iniziare un altro sport a livello agonistico, in quanto l'avevo praticata a livello agonistico, quindi ero abituata a quel tipo di allenamento lì, e non sapendo cosa fare ho deciso di cominciare ad andare in palestra così normalmente con mio fratello, e ho cominciato a fare panca, diciamo così, tanto per riempire un po' il tempo. E invece poi ho avuto subito una grande passione e quindi ho continuato.
She wanted to compete because she was, used to with gymnastics, and started going to the gym with her brother, who is actually going to the gym and benching. He
Okay.
is also really good in
Okay.
bench, and she liked it, and now it is what
Awesome.
it is.
Awesome.
Was there something that ended your gymnastics career, or was it just you just stopped? Was there an injury or anything like that?
Ah,
Come mai
ok.
ti sei...
No, non c'è stato un infortunio, ma semplicemente ginnastica è uno sport che diciamo arrivi al culmine della carriera abbastanza presto, quindi diciamo a 16 anni grosso modo hai già un po' le idee chiare di dove puoi arrivare, in quale, diciamo, a quale livello puoi competere. E poi c'erano stati dei cambiamenti all'interno della mia società, se n'era andato il mio allenatore storico, diciamo, e avevo perso un po' la passione semplicemente per questo sport qua.
She was already, let's say, old for gymnastics, as you may imagine. As at 16, you usually know where you gotta go in the future.
Right.
And she also had something strange, something change it with her coach. Coach change it,
Sì.
and she was not, you know, comfortable. She was not comfortable with that. So
Okay.
stop with gymnastics.
Yeah.
So when you moved into powerlifting, as a fairly new powerlifter, you don't see a lot of people who go into equipped. Mostly in North America, people who are just starting in lifting are doing classic more. But you've obviously done both very successfully. What initially made you want to go equipped? Or maybe vice versa, what made you want to go both equipped and classic, I guess?
Ti ha chiesto, facendo il paragone con il Nord America,
Mhm.
cioè dice lì da loro
C'è
comunque
quasi solo
quasi
classic.
tutti cominciano col Classic, e ti ha chiesto perché hai cominciato dall'attrezzato e perché poi insomma...
Mhm. Allora, io in realtà ho cominciato con il Classic in quanto anche qui in Italia comunque è più diffuso, soprattutto ora, 5 anni fa, diciamo, si stava cominciando a diffondere, ma c'era anche molto il powerlifting attrezzato. Però il mio allenatore e la mia squadra sono praticamente è la squadra, se vogliamo, più titolata nel powerlifting attrezzato d'Italia, quindi hanno una grande cultura in realtà del powerlifting attrezzato e all'epoca meno di quello classic. E quindi facendo parte di una squadra attrezzata semplicemente ho detto non mi sembra giusto precludermi di fare entrambi.
She started with classic powerlifting and then started with equip because of, you know, our coach and me, all our team, we're all doing equipped powerlifting.
Okay.
You know, we started with equipped powerlifting and we continued with equipped. So she has always looked at equipped and decided to try it.
So guess, um, what's the general landscape of powerlifting in Italy? Is classic and equipped fairly similar for popularity, or would one be more popular than the other?
E attualmente è molto più diffuso il powerlifting classic di gran lunga e nel 2015 quando ho iniziato in realtà forse era più il contrario se vogliamo, era ancora più diffuso quello attrezzato ma comunque i numeri erano molto piccoli e negli ultimi 5 anni c'è stato proprio l'esplosione del powerlifting classic.
When she started in 2015, and let's say until 2015, it was almost only equipped in Italy here. And then everything started going down, and a lot of people had started powerlifting with classic, and it is actually incredibly big in our country, which is small, you know.
Right.
But we have almost 2,000 people at row nationals. So
Wow.
A lot of people, a lot of
Yeah.
people,
Wow.
and 100 in equip, maybe less.
Okay. So that's kind of similar to North America, I feel like, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Digli che probabilmente sono stata una delle ultime persone a cominciare il powerlifting attrezzato in Italia.
She's probably one of the, last people starting equip.
Hmm. Well, hopefully there's more. So with like you sort of split your time between classic and equipped. Do you enjoy both of them, or are you drawn to both of them equally, or is there one that you kind of like more, or are they maybe just kind of different?
Mi piacciono tantissimo entrambi e in realtà vado a periodi, cioè quando devo preparare una gara attrezzata sono super entusiasmata, quando devo appunto fare allenamenti attrezzati e diciamo quasi mi dimentico della preparazione RAW, delle future preparazioni RAW, mentre quando devo preparare gare RAW succede il contrario. E non lo so, se vogliamo fare una questione di cuore proprio, probabilmente più nel classic perché ho cominciato da quello e quindi ho sempre visto il mio futuro, se vogliamo, fin da quando ho iniziato in quello. Però poi quando ho iniziato anche quello attrezzato, mi sono quasi innamorata allo stesso modo.
So it's not easy to say which one. She loves both.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes she loves the equip more, sometimes classic more. When she has to prepare classic, she loves classic. And then when she starts wearing shirts and suits, she starts again loving equip. Probably
That's
classic a little bit more because is what she started with.
Right. That's awesome.
So you compete in the 63 kilo weight class against probably one of the greatest female lifters of all time, Larissa Solovniova. And then on the raw side, you broke Jen Thompson's world record total after she's the only person that's ever held that total world record. Does chasing down like these titans of the sport really motivate you to work harder?
Capito il primo pezzo, ma capito tutto?
Dice se questi obiettivi, diciamo queste cose che sei riuscito a fare in termini di, lui dice c'hai la Soloviova, nell'attrezzato, sei riuscito a prendere il record totale della Thompson e ti chiede se questi grandi nemici, avversari più che nemici, ti motivino. Sì.
Sì, tantissimo, tantissimo e credo che molto probabilmente se non avessi avuto quei riferimenti lì, probabilmente avrei fatto meno chili. Quando ho cominciato il powerlifting attrezzato ho, diciamo, da subito fatto bei numeri, però chiaramente sapendo che i record erano quelli, che c'era il mostro sacro della meno 63 da battere, è tantissimo stimolante. Adesso sono super stimolata per prendere il record di panca della Thompson, quindi sì, tantissimo. Mi danno comunque dei riferimenti di numeri da raggiungere.
So she is absolutely motivated by her, Jen and Larissa. So probably, she said probably something would have gone differently if Jen or Larissa wouldn't have been there where they are, motivating her.
So there's rumors that the weight classes for women are going to change, and that 72 kilos is no longer going to be a class. There's going to be a 69 kilo class and a 76 kilo class. I don't know. Like, do you cut for the 63 kilos? Will that change your plans? Would you look at 69, or is 63 a very comfortable class for you?
Che fai?
No, continuerò nella 63 sicuramente perché comunque diciamo non sto mai troppo più alta di peso corporeo, comunque mi sforzo di stare sopra se vogliamo, al massimo arrivo a 65 kg, in 69 non mi ci vedo. è per me un peso troppo alto e probabilmente anche inutile. Non ho una
60,
struttura fisica da 69 kg.
63. She will continue with 63. She usually cuts about 1 kilo or maybe something more. Probably 69 is too much for her. She should be a little bit bigger.
Sono bassa. I'm very, come si dice?
She's short.
Yeah, I'm very short.
All right. So recently in Dubai, at the World Championship, you were really close on both the squat and bench world records, and failed on small sort of technical things. Like having made those obviously would have pushed Larissa a lot more. Do those kinds of little misses, do you find those are really motivating for you? Do they drive you further? Or do you kind of get, disappointed and beat up? Or how do you deal with those shortcomings in a competition like that?
Do you mean during competition?
Maybe during and after. Yeah.
Dice come l'ho presa.
Come te la gestisci nello specifico con quei 2 errori che ti hanno un po' fregato di squat e di panca, sia durante che dopo la gara?
Allora,
Cioè, ti motivano?
sì,
Oppure...
ho capito. E durante la gara lo squat è stato un po' duro, io poi nelle gare attrezzate sono molto in ansia, le vivo con molta più ansia rispetto alle gare aero, e comunque la gestione delle gare attrezzate è più difficile, ci sono molti più imprevisti, e avendo io fatto, se vogliamo, poche gare, probabilmente devo ancora trovare il mio mindset, diciamo, che mi fa essere adeguatamente pronta. E durante la gara quindi mi ha buttato un po' giù. Poi in realtà quando ho cominciato la panca sono riuscita a ritirarmi su, e una volta arrivati allo stacco avevo chiaramente perso la motivazione, nel senso che comunque ormai era praticamente impossibile vincere. E per quanto riguarda il dopo, ho avuto una grandissima carica, cioè ho detto ok, adesso il primo mondiale ci sta, che è andato un po' così e così, il secondo però dovevo tirare fuori di più, e adesso, cioè, basta, adesso è ora di fare bene.
She's actually anxious about equipped competitions. Maybe because of, she's not so experienced. There's not so much time in equipped lifting. And after squat and bench at Worlds, it was a little bit tough to stay motivated and focused. And it also happened the year before in Sweden.
Okay.
Almost the same thing. And I have to say it was really worst that year. So she started living it better and driving the situation and finding the way to go. She was motivated for Worlds in Dubai, but Larissa is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
She's always doing the right thing at the right time, so it's not easy. We will try.
I mean,
Again.
the squat was like a rocket. It was so easy. That third attempt, it was just borderline on depth. So clearly the strength is definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it nerves for the equipped competition that is just not feeling the experience?
Lui dice: sei nervosa o senti di non avere l'esperienza? Qual è il problema?
Diciamo che non sono mai troppo tranquilla alle gare, neanche quelle raw, però l'attrezzato con tutti gli imprevisti del caso che ci sono, anche prendere la valida, nel corpetto che magari quel giorno lo senti più largo, il bilanciere che ti scivola, insomma ci sono mille variabili rispetto a RAW, quindi sicuramente conta sia l'esperienza e sia il fatto che è proprio più difficile.
The fact is that equip lifting is so unpredictable, so you never know if you get depth or if you touch or so many things to think about to keep under control, and that actually causes anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Yeah. That sounds very accurate. Have you found any ways to, like, for yourself, even just in training and stuff like that, to deal with that anxiety? Is there anything that you found that helps work in terms of managing that in your training?
Ti chiede del rapporto con l'ansia in allenamento, come la gestisci, se
Ah,
è una cosa utile.
in realtà-
Immagino anche se tu ce l'abbia in allenamento.
In realtà in allenamento sono tanto tranquilla, cioè è difficile, non faccio alzate con ansia, non sono il tipo di persona che fa alzate con molta adrenalina, punto tanto molto sulla tranquillità e sul ricercare le cose che so fare. E anche durante gli ultimi giorni sono tranquilla, mi prendo un'ansia incredibile nelle ultime ore.
She's always really calm, and she just tries to do what she knows.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're there, since quanto tempo prima di parte la
Un
cosa?
paio d'ore prima del peso.
2 hours prior the weigh-in, and then it starts going down, and anxiety comes up.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a I think a pretty common thing, and I think a lot of our listeners who are maybe starting to experience equipped lifting can really identify with that. So I was just wondering if there was anything special that you found or things that you were trying. That's all.
To solve this situation, you mean?
Yeah, to try to help with that sort of anxiety, because it obviously is, like, you got the pressure and there's like the physical pressure of being squished by the suit, and some of the pain aspects of it and stuff like that. So it can be really hard to concentrate. But yeah, I was just wondering, because I like to know how people or different people handle those kinds of things.
Mi dice no, c'è della gente che starà cominciando adesso, fa attrezzato, che ascolta.
Mhm.
E ti chiede come tu poni rimedio a questi stati di ansia.
Diciamo che cerco di pensare positivo, cioè cerco di concentrarmi su quello che so fare, mi dico ok, non è niente di diverso rispetto a quello che fai in allenamento, cambia il posto, cambia che ci sono degli arbitri, ma è sempre uno squat, è sempre una panca, è sempre uno stacco.
Quindi diciamo, menti a te stessa.
No, cerco sicurezza in me stessa e comunque mi rifugio molto in me stessa durante queste ore qui. Cerco la sicurezza in me stessa proprio.
Okay, she searches for, we can say, all the good situations and feelings
Mm-hmm.
and feedbacks she has from training and previous, maybe national competition.
Okay.
To keep calm. She looks a lot at what she can do. So inside is inside. The solution is inside.
Right. Cool. I like that perspective.
So I just want to jump into a bit into your training. Obviously, you train like you train a lot, classic and equipped. But when you're preparing for an equipped competition, do you spend? Are you in your gear frequently, weekly, or is it more of you train classic, then you're in the gear a few times before the meet?
Mi ha chiesto quanto tempo metto
Come
l'attrezzatura.
gestisci la preparazione attrezzata? Quante volte t'alleni
Allora,
attrezzata?
diciamo la preparazione attrezzata vera e propria, quindi cominciando ad indossare appunto l'attrezzatura, inizia circa 3 mesi prima e metto un'attrezzatura, comincio con mettere l'attrezzatura molto larga, circa una volta ogni 2 settimane. Magari la panca un po' più spesso, però sicuramente squat e stacco una volta ogni 2 settimane. E arrivati nell'ultimo mese, panca una volta a settimana, quindi cioè una volta a settimana, e squat e stacco continuo con una volta ogni 2 settimane, e chiaramente poi comincio a mettere attrezzatura stretta verso sì, mese e mezzo alla gara, e i corpetti stretti grosso modo li metto 3 volte massimo prima della gara.
We usually start 3 months before the competition and use loose equipment once every 2 weeks with squat and deadlift,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe every week with the shirt. Then we start using the competition gear, so stiff and real real shirts, real
The tight
suits.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Quanto?
1 mese e mezzo più o meno, 6
About
settimane.
6 weeks before the competition.
Okay.
She usually wears the tight suit 3 times before the competition. Only 3 times.
Okay.
All the rest is loose stuff once a week, not more.
Yeah.
But your bench shirt, you're in more frequently than that, you said? Twice a or you said you're in the
Once a week.
squat once a week for
Once
the
a
bench
week.
shirt.
Yeah, once a week.
And then every other week for squat and deadlift.
We have squat, deadlift.
Okay. So it alternates, yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, all the classic stuff goes a little bit down, trying to keep your nervous system fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Tanto che si muove tutto.
So that kind of leads into my next question with the current status of meets right now. Classic Worlds this year is set for November 13th to the 22nd, and Equipped Open Worlds is set for October 31st to the November 7th. Are you considering these events? Like, is that something that's on your radar? I don't know with the situation in Italy right now. Are you considering lifting at both of them or either of them?
Mi ha chiesto se parteciperà ai mondiali.
Ha detto, so vicini, quello classico e quello attrezzato so vicini. E come pensi di fare, come la situazione in Italia?
Allora, in realtà non dipende molto da me, perché dipende dalle gare a cui decide di partecipare la federazione italiana, in quanto sia per la faccenda del Covid, sia per in generale, diciamo, la federazione italiana non partecipa sempre a tutte le gare internazionali. Ai mondiali sì, quest'anno però è un anno un po' particolare. Fosse stato per me, avrei fatto entrambi. Però purtroppo il mondiale Raw non si farà e non abbiamo ancora la certezza del mondiale attrezzato, però insomma c'è un'ottima probabilità di partecipare.
She would do both, but it depends on our national federation, as we do not always join international competitions. So we know for sure that we will not go to Classic Worlds.
Okay.
We have to see what happens for Equipped, but we don't know. The situation is good now in Italy.
Good.
Talking about the virus, but you never know.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog is just barking
No
like mad.
problem.
I'll just mute if you want to go on, Bryce.
Okay. So Ryan and I were looking at some of your recent lifts, and it looks like you've hit a pretty huge total and a number of PRs in training or PBs in training lately. In sort of in lieu of doing Sheffield, obviously. Do you find that those big sort of surges or big improvements in your raw strength, do those carry over pretty well to your equipped lifting? Or do they seem a little bit more separate for your training, or what's your sort of take on that kind of stuff?
Dice che hanno visto che recentemente hai fatto un sacco di VR e ti chiede se secondo te i tuoi miglioramenti nel Classic siano, cioè, se tu pensi che i miglioramenti nel Classic si riflettano positivamente sull'attrezzato per il tuo modo di allenarti.
Io penso di sì perché in realtà le mie alzate, se vogliamo, sono condizionate l'una con l'altra, cioè powerlifting raw e attrezzato sono un po' condizionati, quindi
In che senso?
tendo a fare delle alzate abbastanza simili, se vogliamo, no? Con la stessa metodica, con la stessa idea e penso che in generale comunque un incremento di forza nel RAW comunque mi porti poi anche a un incremento di forza nell'attrezzato, anche se non è proprio così scontato, però insomma penso che poi potrò rispondere positivamente anche nell'attrezzato. Chiaramente dovrò riabituarmi all'attrezzatura che è tanto che non la metto, l'ultima volta è stata a dicembre, però insomma penso di sì.
She thinks, and we hope, yes. So we'll see. But the fact is that before, the idea behind her lifts is almost the same in classic and equipped. So
Okay.
probably something good will happen, but you have to see because now it's since December.
Mm-hmm.
She's without the equipment since December, so a long period. It
Mm-hmm.
was for Sheffield, so
Right.
Right.
So on your birthday, you benched 140 kilos, and was that you that lifted off for Francesco? Were you the liftoff
Yeah.
guy in that video? Yeah. That your celebration in that video is.
So
I just
good.
watch it. I just watch it
So
over and over
good.
again when you run over and shake the rack.
Shake the rack.
finally someone appreciated.
I love that excitement.
So like 140 kilo raw bench is pretty incredible. I mean, it's you're only 3 kilos away from the world record, obviously. And do you think I don't know how to phrase this right. Like your best equipped bench is around 175, I think, which is not a lot. Do you think that bench shirt is your biggest struggle for equipment carryover? Like, do you find you get the least out of the bench shirt?
Mi chiede
Ti chiede
se...
se la maglia è la tua bestia nera.
Sì, diciamo che essendo io molto forte di panca nel Classic, essendo la mia alzata più forte, quando ho cominciato l'attrezzato ero super entusiasta di mettere la maglia, invece poi è stata in realtà la cosa più difficile da imparare. E io non ho saputo fare panca attrezzata fino al mondiale di Dubai, praticamente lì è l'unica volta che ho detto ok, forse ho capito qualcosa e ho fallito per poco 180, che è comunque poco rispetto al mio massimale RAW. Spero di avere quindi per questo motivo degli incrementi, diciamo, un po' più sostanziosi nel momento in cui imparerò ad usare nel modo migliore, insomma, la maglia. Diciamo che un grande sogno nel cassetto è raggiungere i 200. Poi chiaramente vorrei essere forte come Rea, ma non ci riesco.
She thinks she is actually a lot less strong with the shirt, and that's true. Okay, that's true. And and
È stata la cosa più difficile.
it has been the most difficult thing in equip lifting for her. And then she said she would like to be strong as Rhea, but she can't.
E digli sì, che comunque al mondiale di Dubai l'ho sentita, cioè l'ho fatta un pochino meglio, però ancora non sento mia l'alzata.
Around the period of Worlds in Dubai, she started feeling the shirt a little bit better.
Right.
So,
Well, I will say that Rhea is not benching 140 kilos raw, so I would say in some ways you're stronger than Rhea. So,
not with the shirt.
well, do you find that the shirt just fights your natural raw, like your classic bench? Is it just like a conflicting thing for you? Like it wants you to touch lower or something like that?
Dice, pensi che la maglia, lui ha detto proprio combatta contro il tuo movimento raw, cioè che voglia farti toccare più in basso, che voglia schiacciarti.
Sì, allora sicuramente mi schiaccia molto, non riesco ad avere l'arco che ho nel RAW e il mio movimento RAW è sempre stato, soprattutto fino a qualche tempo fa, molto RAW se vogliamo, cioè con i gomiti comunque abbastanza aperti, toccando non troppo avanti, quindi in realtà un po' tutto il contrario rispetto a quello che mi vuole far fare la maglia. Quindi non sono proprio riuscita a capire inizialmente come dovessi usare questa maglia. Sentivo quasi più pesanti i chili 140 con la maglia che RAW.
Quindi tu all'inizio hai sentito questa cosa, però adesso...
No, adesso penso che imparandola ad usare in realtà sia più simile di quanto mi sembrava all'inizio. Cambiano alcune cose, però in realtà penso che ci sia una similitudine.
Okay, so at the beginning, up to Worlds in Dubai, she felt that kind of thing you said. So the shirt fighting your classic movement, classic form, then started noticing and having something similar between the two.
Okay.
And to me, personally, it tends to get there really similar.
So, have you tried like a number of different bench shirts or sizes, like ways of fitting the shirt and that kind of stuff, or has it been predominantly just with like one shirt that you've been kind of trying to make it work?
Hai provato diverse maglie, diverse taglie o solo una?
Sì, ho provato diverse taglie, ho cominciato con una 36, in realtà anche usata, quindi una nuova, quindi anche un po' più larga, poi quando sono stata sponsorizzata dalla Titan mi hanno fatto una maglia custom, che però secondo me non è ancora tremendamente stretta, tendo ad avere le spalle molto strette, quindi in realtà sul petto mi va un po' tutto largo rispetto alle braccia.
She has tried
36.
che maglia era poi?
Una sempre l'esatto.
It was a low cut 36. At the
Mhm.
beginning it was used, and then she got a custom shirt from Titan, and actually she feels like having it a little bit loose, because she has narrow shoulders, so it is never tight on the chest.
Mm.
It's always tight on the arms.
Right. Do you want to go into gearhead there, Bryce? Does that
Sure.
work?
Yeah.
Since we're kind of getting there already.
Yeah, we're kind of naturally
So
drifting in that direction.
We have a segment we call Gearhead, where we talk about specific gear related questions. If there's anything that's off limits, feel free to say so. I know some people are very protective about how they wear their gear, how they alter their gear. So if there's anything you don't want to talk about, just let us know.
Dice
Cool.
che ora ci fanno delle domande sull'attrezzatura,
Mhm.
se non possiamo, non vogliamo rispondere, possiamo tranquillamente dirlo.
Ok.
Ok.
Cool.
So you kind of got into it with the bench shirt. You said you now have a custom bench shirt, but generally, do you wear stock gear in the past, or has it always been? Is it now all custom?
Dice che abbiamo detto che hai avuto una maglia attrezzata,
Custom.
comunque abbiamo utilizzato le stock in passato, sì,
Stock che si intende?
quelle taglie fisse.
Usiamo praticamente solo quelle. Io ho questa maglia attrezzata semplicemente perché mi hanno sponsorizzato, perché il prezzo è davvero tanto alto.
We almost exclusively use stock equipment because she is the one, she and another guy who got the sponsorship, and they got a custom shirt. But we have a lot more experience with stock shirts and suits.
Mhm.
So people always want to know like what sizes people wear. So do you know what sizes you wear in all the suits and shirts? You said a 36
Taglie.
bench shirt, but
La taglia della maglia?
Maglie e corpetti.
E allora, queste custom in realtà non so bene perché chiaramente non c'è scritta la taglia.
Prendile, no?
La devo prendere?
No.
No, non c'è scritta.
Ah.
Credo sia una 34 orientativamente. Corpetti sono anche lì in realtà più vicino a un 36 che a un 34, quindi credo una via di mezzo se vogliamo, perché comunque sono custom pure quelle.
So around 34 for the bench shirt and around 36 for the suits, squat and deadlift.
and okay.
Yeah.
And do you do a lot of modification to the stock gear? Like, do you take stuff in, or do you just basically wear it as is?
It's clear. Le abbiamo riprese? Abbiamo uscite strette?
Il velocity da stacco sì, ho ripreso le bretelle tanto,
Tanto
abbastanza. E il corpetto da squat no, perché è stretto, tanto stretto, e la maglia ho ripreso un po' le braccia.
Okay, so deadlift suit straps, a lot, a lot, a lot, really a lot, and something on the arms of the shirt.
Okay. And no modifications to the squat suit then?
No,
Okay.
it is actually really tight.
And so do you does your powerlifting club have like one person who does all of the modifications, or does everybody kind of learn how to do that? Like, did you have to learn how to sew?
Io me le faccio da sola.
Assuming that you didn't
Cioè,
already know how to sew.
io me le faccio da sola e diciamo c'è un ragazzo un po' più specializzato che ci ha dato dei consigli, Edoardo, inizialmente, però ognuno se li fa da soli o li porta in sartoria.
We have an experienced there's an experienced guy, but is him and her doing that stuff for almost everyone.
For the whole team.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you do it by hand or do you have a machine?
A mano, a mano.
Hand.
Okay, me too.
Col filo molto spesso, insomma,
I-
si dice.
Yeah, it's very slow when I do it. Very slow. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
time.
Painful.
And what about knee wraps? What do you like to use for knee wraps and or wrist wraps?
Le fasce?
Sì,
Polsini.
fasce e polsini, quali fasce ti piacciono?
E mi piacciono e uso le titanium, sia polsini che fasce. Le gold li trovo troppo rigidi, soprattutto anche perché polsini troppo rigidi io proprio non mi trovo con i polsini rigidi. Per quanto riguarda le fasce, chiaramente dipende anche dal mio coach che mi fascia, e lui non ama usare fasce molto rigide, non riesce ad aprire delle fasce molto dure, quindi entrambi ci troviamo bene con le titanium.
So she uses titanium wraps, and she doesn't love really tight and stiff wrist wraps. But it depends talking about knee wraps, it depends on who is going to wrap your knees.
Right.
Our coach loves a little bit softer wraps. It's doing better with that type of wraps. But generally, we don't use the signature gold, for example.
Yeah.
Right.
Those things are a lot. They don't feel very good. And they're really hard to wrap, I find, yourself anyways. Do you guys wrap each other? Or do you have, like, I'm assuming you don't, nobody's, like, do you guys self-wrap, or do you have a pretty solid team that kind of takes care of each other?
E il fasciatore principale è comunque il nostro allenatore, poi ci sei tu che sei, diciamo, il secondo, e grosso modo in squadra siete voi due.
Mainly two people, our coach and me, but we're all together generally
Right.
when we train with equipment. We
Yeah,
tend
that makes the
to
most sense.
make things, encounter and do everything on Saturday at the gym.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's a problem. Solving a problem.
Very long sessions, lots of
Yeah,
socializing.
sessions, and really, come si dice? Non mi ricordo.
Come? Cosa?
Faticoso. Oddio, non mi viene.
Non so.
It's really hard rapping and training.
Oh yeah. Especially if there's like two people wrapping all of the athletes.
Yeah.
There's no deadlifting for a few days after that. And in terms of your shoes, for squatting, do you like to use a heeled shoe or a flat shoe?
Uso il tacco per lo squat.
Uso il tacco. Uso il tacco sia attrezzato per...
For both classic and equipped.
Okay.
Right.
Actually using Nikes and used to use Eddie Powers.
Okay. Cool.
So we have a few questions. We put a question to our listeners and asked for anyone had any questions for you guys. So we got a few back that we picked out of here. Do you find your technique differs from raw to equipped? I know we covered this a little bit, but do you find it's pretty similar between the two?
Sì, è una domanda che sembra che ci ha già fatto. Tu pensi che la tua tecnica tra raw e attrezzato sia simile?
Sì, cioè credo che ci sono chiaramente delle differenze tecniche, però diciamo l'idea mentale, lo schema mentale è molto simile, è molto simile.
Yeah, as we said before, the idea behind the lifts is similar. So there are differences, credo che lui ci stia chiedendo proprio nello specifico quali.
Chiaramente nel corpetto, quando uso il corpetto con lo squat, c'è un movimento molto più verticale in cui appunto ti appoggi molto di più sul corpetto, la panca chiaramente.
Aspetta, pausa. So we have a more vertical squat when we use a suit.
Mm-hmm.
E la panca?
La panca tende a farmi chiudere un po' i gomiti, a portarlo un po' più avanti.
So she's used to have, open elbows in classic bench and a little bit narrower in equipped.
Yeah. E nello stacco, diciamo, essenzialmente la differenza è nel modo in cui parto, no? Cioè nel modo in cui faccio l'incastro, perché col corpetto non mi permette di andare giù subito, ma devo abbassare il sedere dopo aver preso il bilanciere.
And a different starting position in the deadlift, a little bit lower and more vertical to get the groove.
Right, totally. And in terms of, I know we talked a bit about your sort of mental approach to things. Do you find that attempting a max classic versus attempting a max in equipment, is that very different for you mentally? Or sort of how do you approach either, I guess?
Dice provare un massimale raw e un attrezzato come è diverso, come approcci mentalmente
Mhm.
queste due cose.
Beh, come dicevo prima, così come in gara, la cosa che chiaramente si ripercuote un po' in allenamento, nel senso che chiaramente sono molto più tranquilla, però il massimale attrezzato, i giorni di allenamento attrezzato, ci sono comunque tutte quelle cose imprevedibili che ti mettono un pochino più di ansia rispetto al RAW, in cui è più difficile sbagliare, cioè essenzialmente lì nel RAW, ok, sai quello che devi fare, deve succedere qualcosa affinché vada male, o comunque deve essere un carico che non hai, perché altrimenti è difficile. Invece nell'attrezzato ci sono cose imprevedibili, e anche quindi ho chiaramente un pochino più di ansia.
Anche se poi comunque alla fine
Anche
a un
se poi
certo punto diventerà simile,
sì,
immagino.
sì, anche se comunque poi in allenamento adesso si è abbastanza stabilizzato, quindi la differenza principale è in gara.
For the reasons she gave before, so the unpredictability
Hmm.
of equipped, she is now at the moment a lot more anxious with equipped, even at the gym. So not only not only talking about competitions, um, but maybe one day the two things will get together and be similar. But in classic, you know what to do, and you just try to get there, hyped enough to do that.
Hmm.
In equip, you just have to see what happens and try to solve problems. And but probably one day with experience, you can manage two things the same way.
Right. And do you think that having that experience of how much more intense equipped is, do you think having that experience has helped you deal with classic lifting, or helped make that seem a lot more manageable?
Dice aver esperito questa intensità, diciamo, dell'attrezzato, che impronta pensi possa aver dato al RAW? Cioè, pensi che possa aver dato un'impronta al RAW?
Un'impronta proprio.
Cioè, l'intensità dell'attrezzato proprio.
Mm. Allora, credo che chiaramente nel momento in cui ti trovi ad affrontare una cosa più difficile, poi in realtà quella più semplice ti appare ancora più semplice, probabilmente. Quindi parlando proprio di difficoltà nell'affrontare, insomma, tutti gli allenamenti, le competizioni attrezzate, probabilmente sì, ti mettono poi in realtà ancora più tranquillità in quelle RAW. Infatti mi ricordo quando ho fatto il mondiale RAW in Svezia, e, che venivo da quello attrezzato in Svezia sempre, ero molto rilassata, cioè molto più rilassata, e dicevo, Dio, cioè dovessi fare oggi una gara attrezzata starei molto peggio. Quindi da questo punto di vista sì, quindi non parliamo di allenamento, parliamo di questo proprio.
No, in generale.
Ok, per quanto riguarda invece l'allenamento, proprio, beh, tanto di questo.
Talking about competitions, she says that when you do something a lot easier, pardon, when you do something a lot harder, then what's easier seems a lot more easier. So during classic competitions, she is really calm, and she is. We were really calm in Sweden at Classic Worlds.
Hmm.
Yeah, we were anxious about the podium and the competitions, but it was another thing, completely different,
Hmm.
completely different. We knew she is able to get there and do what she's got in classic,
Hmm.
and we're not that secure when talking about equip.
Invece per quanto riguarda l'allenamento, volevo dire che comunque credo che per me sia stata una specie di svolta colossale in realtà cominciare a fare l'attrezzato, perché mi permette di alternare delle preparazioni diverse, quindi tra virgolette riposarmi nel raw quando è giusto che mi riposo, perché altrimenti stare sempre lì a picchiare su carichi alti, massimali, tutto l'anno non sarebbe giusto per me. E allo stesso tempo anche nell'attrezzato mi dà delle risposte positive.
So she thinks, and we think that one of the best things of doing both is alternating, so you can go heavier when you have to prepare a classic competition, and then heal up when you have to prepare an equipped competition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we think is, making the difference in her, what the
Preparazione.
see career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's letting her improve and heal.
Right. So what motivates you more, defending your classic world championship or winning an equipped world championship?
Beh, una domanda molto difficile. Ti dovessi...
I'm not going to translate the wrong answer.
È una domanda molto difficile e ti dovessi dire oggi sono, non so perché, forse il pensiero di non dover fare il mondiale Raw o forse l'esperienza dell'ultimo mondiale attrezzato che mi è rimasta un po', insomma, non mi è andata molto giù e mi fa essere molto motivata per il prossimo mondiale attrezzato, cosa che solitamente a giugno solitamente a giugno non sono così motivata già per il mondiale che c'è a novembre, però chiaramente quando dovrò preparare il mondiale Raw sarò probabilmente altrettanto motivata.
She said that as things went that way in Dubai, she's absolutely hyped for Equipped Worlds. And then she said some stuff about classic.
Che hai detto? Di che hai detto?
No, niente.
That's fair.
We had one more listener question here, and they wanted to know if you noticed any differences in the European equipped community versus the North American equipped community. If you've had any sort of inclination or whatever between the two communities with your experiences.
Dice differenze e analogie tra il movimento europeo e quello nordamericano attrezzato.
Boh. Ma che intende per differenze?
Ho detto il movimento.
Ma non lo so, non sono molto addentrata nel movimento nordamericano attrezzato e quindi in realtà non so bene che differenze ci siano. Noi abbiamo chiaramente molto più influenza dal movimento europeo, anche per quanto riguarda probabilmente allenamento, metodi di allenamento.
You mean training or method or
any of that? Like it could be like the social aspect of it. Could be that the European community exists to a greater extent, I think. Yeah, any of those things that you see as sort of differences between the two communities, and it might not be much.
Se vuoi aggiungere qualcosa tu.
We know that you exist. We absolutely know. I think she's not so inside that social stuff, so she's not looking that much, but I am, so me and my friends. So I can say in in some ways we are similar because we have, in my opinion, little groups of really passionate lifters,
Hmm.
and that's about the same thing in Western Europe. What happens in Eastern Europe, we do not know.
Hmm.
And so, don't know. But we know Joe Capellino.
Yep.
We know you and all the other people, even from South America,
Right.
and all the great people we see at Worlds.
Yeah. I think that's a really fantastic way of putting it. Is just small pockets of very passionate people. I think that's a
Yeah.
great way of describing the Equips community, I think, in general. Do we want to dive into these common
Yep.
questions here? Okay,
Yep.
so we have some questions that we ask all of our guests, kind of to wrap things up. And so the first one of those questions is, what would you say is the highlight or your favorite part of your lifting career so far? What's the best thing?
Qual è la cosa, diciamo, più importante, più di valore che ti è successa nella tua carriera? Cioè, il punto più alto, diciamo.
Sicuramente aver vinto il mondiale Raw è stata appunto la vittoria più grande che ho ottenuto e probabilmente anche l'emozione più grande.
The classic championship she won, it was at the same time the highest peak and the greatest feeling.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Even if we were not happy at the end of the competition,
Yeah.
we were like, okay, we won, but that damn deadlift.
That's fair.
Yeah.
As a counterpoint to that, what would you say is the lowest point of your lifting career? And what did you learn from it, or what did you take away from it?
Dice invece qual è stato il punto più basso della tua carriera, che cosa hai imparato e cosa hai appreso da quella cosa lì.
Allora, probabilmente il periodo più brutto che mi ricordo, se parliamo di periodo, è quando ero all'ultimo anno junior, in cui ho avuto un infortunio e diciamo non ero riuscita a fare all'europeo i numeri che volevo fare. E, essendo una delle ultime occasioni junior, ci tenevo tantissimo e c'ero rimasta molto male. Subito dopo è venuto questo
Mondiale,
infortunio.
giusto?
No, europeo.
Ah, europeo junior.
Sì. Però da lì ho detto ok, può succedere, gli infortuni succedono e se vuoi fare qualcosa di importante in questo sport, è il caso che cambi marcia, è il caso che alzi la testa e dici ok, non è sempre tutto rose e fiori. Se invece dovessi dire la gara peggiore, o che comunque che ricordo con un sentimento peggiore, è il primo mondiale attrezzato, il primo mondiale della mia vita in Svezia, l'ho vissuto veramente, veramente male a livello emotivo.
The European Junior Championship, che era 2017?
Sì.
2017, where we weren't there because she was injured. Let's say a severe knee injury. So,
Okay.
it was a very low point, and she said she learned, she understood she had to develop something different, something, a different way of running the powerlifting way, the powerlifting road. Right and straight and direct.
La gara.
Che gara?
il mondiale in Svezia.
Ah, okay. And also the Equipped Worlds in Sweden, first Equipped Worlds.
Hmm.
And first world, um, it was, like I said before, it was really, she was really anxious a lot. She was, she was feeling really sick.
So
And
was
probably it was.
Is everything okay?
Yeah. Non so che è successo. Ah, niente. Sorry.
no worries. It's okay.
Che stava a dire?
Non so.
Um, it was her first mm, hard competition. Maybe impossible, but we wanted to, come si dice, to believe it,
Hmm.
to believe it was possible.
What were you gonna say there, Ryan?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say because almost a month after that first Worlds, you put up like almost a 30 kilo better total. So like, was it all the nerves in that situation? Because I believe you competed, yeah, like almost a month to the day after, and ended up squatting 245 and totaling 620. So was it just the nerves at the Worlds that you're referring to that are really hard for you there?
You mean in Sweden?
Yes, sorry, in Sweden.
Yeah, it was the nerves, it was
Yeah.
the situation.
Right.
Si chiede se quella situazione là è dipesa dai nervi, se è
Sì,
stata
sì, sì, assolutamente. Non
se
ero,
devi-
non ero praticamente pronta in nessun modo ad affrontare quella gara dal punto di vista psicologico.
she was not psychologically ready for that situation.
Right.
Being in some way able, no, maybe not, but being able to beat Larissa, it's something you have to prepare for.
Hmm. And do you find that when you're competing at home in Italy, there's a lot less anxiety?
Dice se in Italia, cioè, pensi che trovi che in Italia gareggiare sia molto meno
Sì,
ansiogeno?
assolutamente. Praticamente ho sempre fatto più chili in Italia che all'estero. È facile che un mese dopo la gara internazionale devo gareggiare in Italia e faccio 40-50 kg in più di totale praticamente.
Absolutely, yes. She has always lifted more here because you
Mhm.
know at our national competition you know everyone and it's like meeting friends for that 3-4 days and having fun, so it's a lot more it's a lot easier and
Yeah.
you do not have Larissa Soloviova.
She doesn't show up at the Italian nationals. No.
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 So who can you think of anybody who have been very big inspirations for your lifting, and maybe they're not lifters themselves, could be family members or something like that, but who have been sort of your biggest inspirations along the way in your powerlifting journey?
Dice se ci hai avuto qualche grossa ispirazione, non necessariamente un atleta,
Mhm.
nel tuo percorso, diciamo.
Allora, nel powerlifting in realtà no, cioè non ho mai avuto un punto di riferimento che ho detto ok, amo tutto di questa persona e mi ispira da morire. A un certo punto ho cominciato ad apprezzare molto la Castelline perché anche lei gareggia sia roga che attrezzato e è molto forte in entrambi. Mi piace molto il suo modo di ragionare. però non posso dire che è stata un'ispirazione vera e propria perché in realtà l'ho apprezzata più ultimamente che inizialmente. E per quanto riguarda probabilmente la mia motivazione più grande, forse inizialmente iniziando e anche poi del resto è stata probabilmente mio padre, che purtroppo non c'è più e ho sempre creduto che lui mi abbia lasciato questa forza un po', se vogliamo, innaturale nel momento in cui se n'è andato.
Lately, she started appreciating, really appreciating Anna Rosa Castellani
Mm-hmm.
for the fact that she is competing in both, but is something, you know, something that happened lately. So not a myth or an inspiration, and we probably cannot say we can say probably the same thing for anyone else in powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And she also said that maybe the greatest motivation um, as being her father was not with us anymore. He was a bodybuilder, and she said that probably when he went away, he left her that crazy strength.
That's awesome.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, what's one piece of advice you wish that you could give to yourself when you're first starting out, I guess?
Qual è un consiglio che daresti a chi comincia? Forse ho capito che ti daresti se te lo potessi dare ricominciando.
Probabilmente
Se ho capito bene.
non si vuole richiedere.
No, vabbè, sì, tanto un consiglio che daresti a uno che comincia.
Probabilmente a me stessa direi di vivermi le cose con un po' più di tranquillità, di godermi di più le cose, perché poi effettivamente ti alleni tanto e in realtà in allenamento me le godo, cioè nel senso me le vivo molto bene, però poi in gara spesso me ne sono vissute male e non ne è valsa la pena, perché poi alla fine non c'è niente di positivo, quindi nonostante non è facile, però alla fine quello è un momento finale, è un momento che te lo devi godere, perché tutto il lavoro lo hai fatto e se lo hai fatto bene, adesso devi prendere qualcosa, prima dai e poi prendi, e se non te lo godi, se non te lo vivi bene, probabilmente non prendi mai niente.
The tip is enjoying the competition, which is finish line is where you have to get back something you have given during the preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do not enjoy that moment, probably the suffering and all the sweat were not, worth.
Cool. Go ahead.
Do you have one raw lifter? I don't know how much you like watch and follow other lifters in the sport. Some people do, some people don't. But do you have one raw lifter that you like, that you would like to see get into equipment? Is there anybody like that?
C'è qualche atleta raw che ti piacerebbe vedere attrezzato?
È una cosa probabilmente a cui non ho pensato. Dovessi rispondere così su due piedi, probabilmente in realtà ho più pensato al contrario. Cioè, quando vedo gli atleti attrezzati mi chiedo, magari vederli in una gara rosa sarebbe interessante. E al contrario, in realtà non ci ho mai pensato perché trovo che il powerlifting attrezzato sia una cosa, diciamo, che ti deve venire da fare, cioè nel senso non la cominci un po' così per caso, invece quando fai attrezzato è molto probabile che in realtà tu sia in grado di fare una gara raw. E, dovessi rispondere così su due piedi, probabilmente mi sarebbe piaciuto vedere Mariati, la canadese?
She was often thought the opposite. So one equipped lifter competing in classic. Com'era tutto il discorso hai fatto poi, perché se uno è capace, vabbè, poi possiamo mettere.
Va bene.
Non credo che sia molto importante. But she says, non so come I don't know how to pronounce it. You have a female lifter.
Maria Hitti.
Yeah.
I had her to say it. That's why.
I thought I heard that in there too. Yeah.
L'ho pronunciato bene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her. She would
That's
love
a,
to see
that's the second person to say Maria, I think.
Yeah. Who else said Maria? Do you remember?
I don't remember who said it, but yeah, someone else said Maria would be.
I wonder if it was Marta.
I can't remember, but yeah, I'll pass that on. I'll tell Maria to.
Yeah, we'll hassle her a little bit. We'll send her some TMs. Tell her to get into a squat suit already.
And the last question we have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No.
What?
The last question we have is: do you have any concrete goals that you're aiming for coming up?
Quali sono i tuoi obiettivi concreti recenti, diciamo, più vicini?
Diciamo che se non fossero stati spostati i Wargames sarebbero stati sicuramente nel 2021 partecipare, sicuramente magari anche vincere i Wargames. Adesso sono stati spostati al 2022, ma chiaramente resta uno degli obiettivi principali. E poi forse perché viene prima in realtà è vincere il prossimo mondiale attrezzato.
World Games?
Just participating and winning both World Games and Equipped Worlds. So
small
awesome.
goals.
Small goals, yeah.
Got the sights set high. I love it. And so you're a coach as well, right, Carola?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody listening to this wants to get a hold of you or find you on social media, where should people go to find out more about you and maybe some of the services you offer, or even just follow along with your training?
Dove può vedere...
Dove ti possono contattare se vogliono essere seguiti?
Sì, mi possono contattare sulla mia pagina personale di Instagram, quindi mi trovano come Carola Garra, o altrimenti anche alla pagina, diciamo, che abbiamo della nostra palestra, quindi in cui perché lavoriamo, diciamo, sotto la nostra palestra, quindi non individualmente, e che si chiama Barbell Academy Roma.
So on her personal profile on EG and on our gym's profile, which is Barbell Academy Roma, is our gym in Rome. If you in Rome, let us know.
That would be awesome.
Pass.
Hopefully one day that's an option.
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect.
Well,
All right,
thank you both very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Guys.
È stato veramente bello parlare del powerlifting attrezzato per una volta.
She enjoyed talking about equipped lifting once in a million years.
We enjoyed talking about equipped lifting too.
Yeah. So will your training now focus on equipped now, hoping for Norway?
Ti chiede se adesso il tuo allenamento si sta incentrando sull'attrezzato o nella speranza di andare in Norvegia.
Sì, diciamo attualmente ancora no, perché non abbiamo la certezza, ma comunque è un po' presto. Speriamo che nella fine dell'estate, che verso la fine dell'estate, verso fine agosto-settembre, di ricominciare a mettere l'attrezzatura.
Not yet, but we'll be putting on the equipment at the end of summer. So
right.
Hoping to go to Norway.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Do you put on equipment when it's 40 degrees there?
Te metti l'attrezzatura quando fanno 40 gradi?
A Roma fa veramente caldo, adesso fa veramente caldo. L'anno scorso i primi allenamenti a fine agosto facevano 40 gradi, però purtroppo è da fare.
Yeah, we have 40 degrees, and sometimes you have to put on the equipment. We
We
don't
were-
have a lot of heavy weights. Probably me and other 2, 3 people in Rome.
Ray and I were in Italy, in Rome, in 2017, and it was probably the hottest it's the hottest place I've ever been. It was 42 or
Crazy.
43 degrees,
And all you could
So-
think about was getting into your squat suit.
and gelato. That was what I was thinking about.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you again. And
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya. All right. We want to thank you for listening to the Equipped, Bruised, and Tired podcast. We're going to be available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever fine podcasts are found. So make sure to leave your 5-star rating if you enjoyed the show and a review as well, and or check out our video version of the show on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions for ourselves, guest suggestions, or questions for our guests, you can go ahead and contact us at equippedbruisedtired@gmail.com, and make sure to do your part to spread the word of the Equipped Renaissance. We'll see you next time.